Seems to me you were on the end, right?
You don't get mail, you don't get visitors. You guys are great for your really appreciate it. Have a ball. Go ball!
Guys look sick. For the coverage, we could place some of those up front.
And everybody starts to know. Yeah. You've been out in that position with your phone. You want your color up like that. We were hoarding it. We were hoarding this morning.
Yeah. That's why you were asking.
Well, the other
Better
thing
in
you
the
can
end
do is
position?
fold it.
Not to see
It's
it?
out of frame.
Is that a frame?
Push it the other way.
Like this?
Good! That was great! Let's print that one. Beautiful, guys, beautiful.
Chargers on the car.
Guys, help! And cut! Yeah, that was great!
Fall into that well. My defense. I don't know. I have no idea.
Come on, please. Smiley!
Right. Did he give you an idea?
Know where they're
Oh
going
no.
right now.
Oh no. Don't try to cozy up to me now, pal.
Where they fit in right now. Then maybe throws on that line and he throws out at the end. Kevin?
How does this? Here we go, please. On a bell.
Still rehearsing.
Son, you. Yeah, I got a kick in the head. Well, come on in. Give me the dime tour. Thought I heard you out here. That'll be a sign to you. Yeah, I know. Ain't that a kick in the head? Come on. I'll give you the dime tour.
Played in The Great Escape. They call him the Scrounge. He's a scrounger. Prisoners and maximum security have many needs just to get from day to day. A magazine, a book, a joint, package of cigarettes, bottle of booze. And this guy, being, what I say, the operator that he is, manages that for them. And I think he also manages to get them the wherewithal to pay him. I think Andy was an unfortunate, maybe one of the most fortunate things that happened to Andy was Shawshank. It forced him to reach for parts of himself that he would never, no other form of existence would have forced him to reach for. It gave him a look at parts of himself, strengths, courage, fortitude, that he would never have had to fathom to dig for.
Simple terms, what's the story?
Well, it's the story of a man named Andy Dufresne, who is a banker who is convicted of double murder, the killing of his wife and her lover in 1948. And whether or not he is guilty is a question. But he gets sent to prison for a double life sentence. And in prison meets Morgan Freeman's character, Red. And the movie becomes about their relationship and how they survive in this hellhole called Shawshank prison. And it's about hope, it's about finding a way to survive when you feel that there is no way, finding a way to transcend your existence, whatever it is, and find a ray of light and a ray of hope, and to find a way to reach a joy, to reach a fulfillment in yourself, a trust in yourself that allows you to survive this imprisonment. And in a way, it's not so much about prison as it is about being surrounded and finding a way to smile and to have hope in the middle of a seemingly inescapable situation.
But King has a real knack for character. He really draws you into those worlds through those characters, and those are the things I tend to be most attracted to. And sort of as a filmmaker, The Woman in the Room was about that particular theme is where James Whitmore comes in. King had a character named Brooks Hatlin, who I think is maybe mentioned in passing in one paragraph of the novella, and he turned into one of my major characters in the movie, played by James Whitmore, who plays this he's like the oldest prisoner in the facility, who has to face now, after being in prison for 50 years, has to face the horrifying possibility that he might actually get paroled and be sent out into the world. And on the inside, he's an important man. He's a very educated man. He runs the library. On the outside, he's just going to be an old con. And it's a really, it's a wonderful performance. James Whitmore, one of my heroes from childhood. So I wandered on, and suddenly here comes Eva Lupolo, screaming down the aisle after me, waving a photograph in her hand. And I looked at it. It was an aerial shot of the most magnificently gothic and bleak prison you've ever seen in your life. The most photogenic location that you can imagine. My producer, though, subsequently, because we wanted to explore all our options, went on that was, by the way, a set. The cell block was built by a genius production designer named Terrence Marsh, who began his career as a youngster on on Lawrence of Arabia. I believe he won an Academy Award for his work on Dr. Zhivago. So this guy is really great, and he built us a cell block that you would not be able to recognize as a set. If I'd blindfolded you and walked you into the warehouse where this thing was built and taken the blindfold off, you would have looked around and thought you were on a real cell block. People have been led to expect from a prison picture, but people are really surprised that it's really about hope and friendship and dignity and redemption, and these themes that are quite meaningful to them. So they're quite delighted by it, and they're also delighted by by just some of the twists that the storyline takes. Women especially seem to love this movie. I'm flabbergasted by that, because there are no women in the movie. It's all about these guys behind bars, but women really seem to adore the film. And I think it's because it's about friendships, and it's about relationships, and it's about people, you know.
Those guys at all?
No, it's definitely a different role for Bill Sadler, and I'm really pleased to see that, because I'm a big fan of his. I think he's a wonderful actor. Yes, he played this really hard, you know, military bad guy in Die Hard 2, and he's played these, you know, sort of various villainous roles, and he's very good at them. But I do think they limit him as an actor. Haywood is not a villainous role. He is just another guy in this place, and he's a character that you do eventually fall in love with. He's just a wonderful presence in the film.
Brown in real life.
Clancy Brown is one of the nicest. This is the thing about all of my actors in this movie. There's the nicest bunch of guys you'd ever want to meet. But you have a guy like Clancy Brown walk in the room, and he's got a voice like he's like Lurch with this voice, and he is, you know, gigantic, and he looks like he could crush you like a beer can, and but he's just one of the nicest guys you would ever meet, and he's very funny and very wry, and his audition was a hoot. That was a treat, because
he talks about how he had to.
Day we leave for home, and if James Whitmore does not break your heart cannot be broken. He is great. So Bob Gunton walks in, and he just gave us this reading that was really fantastic. And he had his head shaved for a role. Actually, I think he did a small part in Demolition Man. He was bald in that, and his hair had grown out by then. He was on sort of in between. He had a few weeks off, I guess. His hair had grown out to this really sort of tight crew cut, sort of gray salt and pepper crew cut. He came in looking like everybody's nightmare of like a school teacher, or you know, some horrible headmaster, you know. And he gave us this wonderful audition. It was subtle, and it was frightening, and it was icy, and it was just dripping with hypocrisy. And we said, okay, cool. We've got the warden. Great. It was really nice.
That's fast. You knew right away.
Sense of oneself. One should never give in to despair. One should never give in to indignity. One should always retain one's dignity, one's sense of self, one's sense of hope. No matter how bleak a situation can get, if you retain that, they don't have you. They can never get you. They can lock away your body, they can lock away your physical self, but they can never lock away your soul. And I think it's a terrific message, I think, that the movie delivers. Subtle way, that's really what the entire movie is about. It's about things being redeemed out of bad circumstances. It's about Andy Dufresne desperately trying to never let go of his sense of self, his dignity, and his spirit, and how that affects those around him. It's all about redemption. The whole movie's about redemption. Of course not, but even if you could have before, once you begin to deal with the reality of those actors playing those roles, you just, no, you can't picture anybody else after a while, and they're both so good in their roles. All the folks in this movie are so good in their roles. Whitmore was a joy. I can't imagine anybody else playing Brooks, for example. Certainly can't imagine anybody else playing Red, which is odd because Red was written as a white Irishman, and he's being played by Morgan Freeman. It's kind of nice, but he's great. No, I can't imagine anybody else.
Each of the actors were hand-picked, and we were very fortunate because when we got them all in a room together, there was instant chemistry between all of them.
How about a guy like Bob Gunton?
I spent 5 months researching prisons in the United States and Canada, and then Frank and I looked at all the photographs that we were sent, and this was the best because it was built in the 1880s. It had a very Gothic look, and we had a movie that spanned a period from 1946 to 1967, and we needed something that felt right and was of the period. Most of the prisons. The prison is also a metaphor for life because people imprison themselves, confine themselves, stop themselves from realizing their own potential.
Haywood is one of the inmates. He's one of Red's gang, as they're affectionately known. There's a group of guys who have the ability to get you whatever you need in prison that you can't buy at the commissary, you know. So there's a certain kind of respect that they have. They have a position within the establishment, you know. He's, you know, a man in a horrible situation, you know, who grew up with all kinds of hopes and dreams and wanted to be this and that, you know, and just screwed up bad.
Well, the character I play in the picture is a guy that's been incarcerated for his life, his entire life. He went in as a very young man, and then he's paroled at age 75, and he doesn't want to do that because this has become his life. So he's very frightened about doing that.
Captain Byron Hadley doesn't like anybody or anything. He's a miserable man. He's very sad. I think he's the tragic figure of this piece, personally.